The prison sat in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by flat desert and miles of fencing that shimmered under heat haze. No nearby town, no passing traffic, just concrete and silence. My transfer papers were stamped urgent and reassigned me to cell block D, night shift. The officer who handed them to me avoided eye contact. "It's quiet work," he said, though his voice carried something strained beneath it. As the gates shut behind me, the metallic echo lingered too long. I told myself it was just nerves. First nights always feel heavier than they should. The warden met me outside cell block D. He looked exhausted, skin pale under fluorescent lights. He gave me 3 rules without introduction. First, ignore any inmate who calls your name after lights out. Second, never open cell 6. Third, if the intercom activates at exactly 3:13 a.m., walk away immediately. Equipment glitch, he added, too quickly. I asked what was in cell 6. He stared at me for several seconds before replying, "Vacant." He didn't blink once. When he handed me the keys, his fingers were ice cold. Cell block D housed 5 inmates. Quiet men, too quiet. They watched me constantly, their eyes following each step of my patrol. At the end of the row stood cell 6, empty according to records. The door remained closed, food slot sealed, yet deep scratches surrounded the metal hatch, layered and frantic, like someone had clawed at it for years. I crouched to inspect them. The marks were fresh, still sharp at the edges. I felt certain of one thing. Whatever made them had been desperate to get out. At exactly 3:13 a.m., the intercom clicked. Static filled the corridor, humming through the fluorescent lights. Then a voice began counting. 1. Calm, measured, neither male nor female. The inmates stood at their bars, smiling faintly. 2, 3. I reached for the control panel, but the buttons didn't respond. 4. The voice echoed unnaturally, as if coming from inside the walls. At 10, every security camera monitor went black for 13 seconds. When power returned, the inmates were back on their bunks, smiling at the ceiling. The next day, I reviewed the security recordings. According to the system logs, there was no outage, no audio anomaly. At 3:13 a.m., I was visible on camera the entire time, standing still in the corridor, facing cell 6, smiling. I replayed it repeatedly. My body language was relaxed, almost patient, but I didn't remember moving there. I didn't remember smiling. The timestamp confirmed I had stood like that for exactly 13 seconds. When the footage ended, I felt something shift behind me. I refused to turn around. On my 4th shift, I heard my name, soft, drawn out, whispered from the direction of cell 6. Lights were out. The corridor gray and dim. My pulse spiked instantly. I reminded myself of Rule 1, ignore it, but the whisper came again, closer this time, almost affectionate. My hand drifted toward the keyring at my belt without conscious thought. The metal jingled faintly. The whisper stopped. Across the block, all 5 inmates were awake, watching me carefully. I inspected cell 6 more closely during daylight hours. The door was cold, colder than the surrounding walls. The observation window showed nothing but concrete. Yet when I leaned in, I felt depth where none should exist, as if the cell extended backward into darkness. I knocked once. The sound didn't echo. It was swallowed. Behind me, one inmate chuckled quietly. "It listens," he muttered. I demanded clarification. He only smiled wider. His lips looked stretched thin, like they weren't designed for expressions that large. A new inmate arrived, Rourke. Transfer from another facility. He looked exhausted, but normal. He asked why everyone kept staring at cell 6. I told him not to worry about it. The first night passed quietly. On the second, he screamed at 3:13 a.m. By the time I reached his cell, he was gripping the bars, eyes wide, whispering, "It counted backward." The next morning, he was dead, standing upright, smiling, no signs of struggle, his gaze fixed directly toward cell 6's door. The intercom resumed the following night. 1. The inmates stood immediately. 2. Their smiles widened. 10. Silence. Then it continued. 11, 12, I felt pressure building in my skull. At 13, all 5 inmates spoke simultaneously. Switch! The lights cut out entirely. Total darkness. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Something brushed past me in the black. When the lights returned, everything appeared normal, except cell 6's food slot was open. In the staff restroom mirror, I noticed something wrong. When I blinked, my reflection hesitated. Just slightly, a fraction of a second too slow. I stared at myself for nearly a minute, testing it. When I finally stepped away, the reflection stayed for half a second longer, still smiling. That night, my name was whispered again, not from cell 6, from directly behind me. I searched archived personnel records. Every 10 years, a guard assigned to cell block D was permanently reassigned internally. No retirement, no resignation, just disappearance from public records. The last one was Officer Daniels, missing 3 nights ago. The date of his reassignment matched tonight's shift exactly. 10 years to the day from his start. My stomach dropped. I checked my own file. Start date, 10 years ago. I didn't remember applying here that long ago. At 3:12 a.m., cell 6's door stood open. I was certain I hadn't unlocked it. Inside was no longer empty. A desk sat against the back wall, a chair, a neatly folded guard uniform, my name stitched above the pocket. The air inside felt warmer than the corridor. I stepped backward slowly. The door shut on its own. The inmates began moving in perfect synchronization, standing together, sitting together, smiling together. At 3:13 a.m., they didn't wait for the count. They began it themselves. 1. Their voices layered unnaturally. 2. The lights flickered with each number. I covered my ears, but the sound vibrated inside my skull. At 13, they all turned toward cell 6. The door creaked open behind me. I felt breath on my neck, cold and patient. I dreamed I was behind bars, watching myself patrol. My movements outside the cell were stiff, mechanical, controlled. I tried to shout a warning, but my mouth stretched into a smile instead. My cheeks burned from holding it. When I woke, my face ached. In the mirror, my smile lingered again before fading. I practiced blinking until my eyes watered. Sometimes I forgot to stop smiling. The intercom counted slower than usual. Each number dragged. At 13, the corridor dissolved into darkness. I felt the floor vanish beneath me. Then concrete pressed against my back, cold bars in front of my face. Across the corridor stood a guard, holding keys, my keys. He looked confused, new, breathing fast. He checked his clipboard. "Night guard, cell block D," he muttered. My voice emerged automatically. "3 rules," I whispered. Days blurred. I stood in cell 6, unable to sit, unable to close my eyes. The inmates watched me now, smiling patiently. At 3:13 a.m., I felt the count begin inside my own chest. I tried not to speak. I failed. 1, I heard myself say. The sound carried through the intercom. The new guard stiffened in the corridor. I couldn't stop smiling. It isn't a prison. It's a balance, a rotation. Someone must count. Someone must watch. The road outside this place doesn't exist. The desert isn't real. It's containment. We keep something contained, or maybe we keep something fed. I no longer remember which. The new guard looks tired already, pale, curious. He asked about cell 6 tonight. I smiled gently. I feel relief, purpose. Soon he'll hear his name whispered. 3:13 a.m. approaches again. The inmates stand, waiting. I feel the numbers building behind my teeth. Footsteps stop outside my door, nervous breathing. I lean closer to the bars and softly whisper his name.